Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cardolicchio. I want to welcome you to another segment of Destination Health Podcast, where we find function in a dysfunctional world. I'm excited about our conversation today because I've become good friends with our guest today, and I want to welcome Brooke Pighin. Brooke, how are you today?
I am good. So good. Happy to be here. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Yeah, we're going to have a great conversation. So, a little bit about Brooke. Brooke, this is where you kind of, for the next minute, you kind of go off. She's from a small town in west coast of Canada. What town is that?
Port Alberni on Vancouver Island.
Nice. You had a full ride scholarship, LSU, but you finished your undergraduate and your master's degree at University of Washington. All-American javelin thrower. We're going to talk about that, no doubt. Master's in health and nutritional sciences, right up my alley. As a professional athlete, javelin career was ending, and you were fourth in the worlds at one time. So that is incredible. And when you told me that, I was like slain. I mean, to me, that's such an accomplishment. Then you made the switch into the fitness and bodybuilding way, and you captured your attention. You fell in love with it. You competed in the infamous Arnold Classic, Olympia Amateur, as well as other shows across America, Australia, Bali, Portugal. You're heading right now tomorrow, right? To Spain, is it, or Portugal?
Portugal, then Spain.
Portugal, Spain, then you're going to the Ukraine, and then you're going to Italy, and so forth. So welcome to the show. Now, we were talking off camera. Tell me, let's get right into this, because we'll talk about macros and nutrition, micros, maybe. I don't know. We may or may not. We'd like to get into the meat and potatoes here. But you were in a coma for 8 days when you were younger.
Yeah.
So, and now you were you were just an all-American javelin thrower, and then you're a bodybuilder, and you were out for like 8 days in a coma. Tell me what happened during this time.
Yeah. So I was skiing with my family, caught an edge and ended up hitting a tree, unconscious, and they kept me under for 8 days after airlifting me to Vancouver Children's Hospital. With that, 3 days in, they told my parents that I had a 5% chance of living. And that
5% chance of living, Brooke. Wow.
Yeah. Some people say only 5% chance of rain. I'm like, it's raining. I think it's going to rain.
Wow.
But with that, they said it's like being in a black box on a roller coaster. You don't really know the ups, downs, or the corners. On day 5 of being in there, they told my parents that I would pull through, but I would likely be quadriplegic or walk, talk, or eat on my own again. And then, so they brought me out of a coma on the 8th day. I had to learn to walk again. I was in a wheelchair for a little bit, just until I was able to walk properly again. And then I miraculously walked out of the hospital. When we went down to the ER to thank the doctors, they looked at my parents and they're like, "How's Brooke doing?" And I was like, "Oh, like right here." I was 11, turning 12 that year, so I was younger.
That was my next question. So you were 11 years old when this happened.
Yeah.
So you're unconscious and you're sitting there saying, "All right, they're giving me 5% chance. I'll take those odds. I'm going to make it." Right? I mean, So what was your mindset after this horrific accident? What pulled you through?
I've always been a very tenacious person. So as far as like skiing, dirt biking, any of that kind of stuff, I still do it, still love it. For me, I was given another chance at life to make a difference, to impact people, to reach people, and obviously a multitude of ways, whether it be through my professional athletics or through my fitness career or through any work that I do. It's given me a kind of cool, unique platform and a place to come from, saying, "Look, this is what you can do. Here's where I've been. Here's where I am now." Just because somebody puts limits on what you can do or says that you can't do something doesn't mean that's actually true. If someone says you'll probably never walk again, that's not necessarily true. Your mind is a powerful thing, and our bodies are very resilient. And I think that you can teach or reteach yourself to do things like learning how to walk again. We started trying to walk, and I had a drop foot, so I was walking toe to heel. I had to break that habit. It was just like lots of little rehabilitative things, and it was tiring and boring, and at times I was ready to just be done with the whole thing. But it was worth it because it made me stronger mentally. And I think a lot of people in this day and age maybe do lack mental fortitude or willpower. But when your desire and your goals are big, and I always say, shoot for the moon and you'll land among the stars. The world really is as far as what you can do. And I have a very supportive family. My parents always told me you can do or be anything that you want to be. And that's kind of what I ran with, coming from a small town, a big fish in a small pond. So coming to the United States of America and having senior athletes telling me, even though I was coming in on a full ride, they're like, Brooke, we know you're good. They're like, but you're a small fish in a big pond now. They're like, if you died today, there'd be 10 athletes to replace you tomorrow. I was like, what? I'm replaceable? That was mind-boggling for me. But such a good, humbling lesson to learn, that we're all kind of in this together too.
Right. Well, I love these stories. I really love these stories because the mantra on the podcast, Brooke, is to motivate, educate, and inspire. So this is going to be all three of them simultaneously together at the same time that we're going to talk about. And I love the words that you're using. You know, you want to have an impact on others, on others, and you want to tell people that you don't have to have those limits. You have to have that mental fortitude. What was that mental fortitude besides being tenacious? What was it? What did you say to yourself that this is not the final chapter in my life, that I'm going to walk again and I'm going to learn how to be, I don't know if I want to use the word normal, but I just want to go out and do what I've done before. What was that in your mind? What did you say to yourself?
It was just something that I saw what other people were doing or able to do. And I knew that I wanted that for myself. I grew up playing sports with boys a lot of the time. Girls wanted to pick daisies in the soccer field, whereas boys actually wanted to shoot the ball in the net. So that made more sense to me. Teach their own. I always say different stroke, different folk. But with that, I was just driven that I wanted to stand out. I wanted to be the best at whatever I did. I wanted to grow. And it's funny because even into being an adult, I'm always going to be studying, researching, trying to push myself, push the boundaries in every area of my life, whether it be mentally, physically, professionally, emotionally. I love growth. I love the challenge of it, the thrill of the ride, the ups, the downs, I love it all. And I think when you learn to embrace that and realize that, like one of the speeches that I always give when I'm doing any kind of motivational speaking gigs, one of them is called Keep Moving Forward. I always say, just keep moving forward. It doesn't matter what that looks like. For you, that might be running. For me, that might be crawling or rolling. I don't know. Keep moving forward.
You know what? I love this. I love the word challenge. You met the challenge of this accident, and you just took the bull by the horns and you said, it's just not going to happen, and I'm not going to make this define me. And the thrill of that victory, right? The thrill of victory when all of this happens is just phenomenal, because I mentor young entrepreneurs in the chiropractic and in the clinical nutrition realm. And these are the two words that I use, Brooke, to be honest with you, is challenge and the thrill. You know, because if you want to be an entrepreneur, and if you want to even forget about being an entrepreneur, if you want to do anything in life, it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge, right? And it's thrilling when you overcome that challenge, because the human spirit, I believe in the human spirit, you know, when it comes to this, I believe firmly in the human spirit. And you had this neuroplasticity. You had to relearn how to do everything, which is incredible. So we're much better off for you being here, helping us all and educating us all. So where does the javelin come in through all of this? You know, you're just this athlete. You don't want to pick the daisies. You're like, come on, guys, let's go play basketball, baseball, football, soccer, whatever it is. I'm out there. Let's go.
So kind of two-part. One, in grade 3, and it's funny because I still know the teacher, she's my favorite teacher. What Olympics was that? It was the 94 Olympic Games, I believe.
Where was the Summer Games in 94?
In South Korea?
I think it was, yes.
So what we did as an arts and crafts project was we had our little cardboard cutouts and she put tin foil over them, and then we made gold medals. So she put a piece of masking tape on the back, and we were allowed to write what sport we won our gold medal at the Olympics in. So I was like, well, can you just pick one? She's like, you can pick however many you want. So I'm like, basketball, baseball, football, hockey, like a lot of sports that women like don't necessarily play, like football. But with that, I knew from that point forward that I wanted to be a professional athlete. That was my calling. That was my purpose. That's what I wanted to do. Grade 3 or 8, 7 or 8 years old, I think, right? 7. So with that, I knew that's what I wanted to go to the United States of America. That was my plan. So somehow it was already ingrained in my mind.
It was already ingrained. You were coming to America regardless.
Yep. So I started running towards that. Obviously, fast forward a few years later, hit the tree skiing. But after hitting the tree skiing, when I came home, because the doctors still to this day can't explain how I A, have no brain damage, or B, how I'm even alive. I've read the reports tons of times and it's just confusion. So it's shy of them saying this is a modern day miracle. That's really the only explanation. So kind of cool. But when I got home here to Port Alberni, I always say that I was on house arrest. My mom's parents, my grandparents came and stayed with us for a few months, and I wasn't allowed to go back to school. I wasn't allowed to really go out much into public because God forbid I got hit by, I don't know, a ball or I tripped and fell. Would it be lights out for good if I hit my head again? Nobody knew. So I still remember laying on the ground staring at the fan in my living room. The one time just being like, oh my gosh, this sucks, because I was a very hyperactive kid. So with that, fast forward a couple months, I was allowed to go to my brother's track meets. I have a younger brother, he's a year and a half younger. So going to his track meets, I was like, can I please do something, like anything? So bored just watching. I'm definitely more of a put me in the center of the room, like let me be the spectacle or whatever.
You want it, you love the crowd and you want to be in the center of it, and that's all good.
Yeah. So with that, at one of the track meets a few months later, my parents said, well, they're like, you can probably do race walk and you can probably throw javelin. Like, you can't really get hurt doing those at that age. It's funny because, as a side note, I had my elbow reconstructed from tearing it from throwing javelin. Like, it's a $75,000 surgery, so you can get hurt. But that's totally different. So
well, yeah. You know what? It seems like you got these things going on, but you're overcoming. Go ahead.
Totally. So with that day, I actually broke the provincial record for my age group throwing javelin. Was like, oh, well, this is kind of cool. So from that day forward, I kept throwing javelin when I was doing track and field. And at the very least, I was a basketball and a soccer player more than anything. And yeah, from that day forward, I kept going with it. And it was a good excuse to miss a few days of school to go to track meets here and there. Why not? Worked for me. And in 2004, I won my very first national title. So kind of I went semi-pro. Of course, they maintain my amateurism status.
Sure.
And all that. But with that, it just kind of took off. And I was like, oh, maybe I should take this a little bit more seriously if I'm winning national titles.
Yeah.
So and I had made the very hard decision my senior year to go with track and field instead of basketball to the States. I was either going to be Oklahoma for basketball or any school I wanted for javelin. So that's how I got into javelin and kind of where it all took off for me.
So now you're in college and you're All-American and you were number 4. So tell us about that story.
So I bounced around schools a little bit there, from LSU over to the University of Washington. I got my first All-American status in 2009.
How old were you at that time?
2009, I would have been 19 years old.
19 years old. Wow.
Yeah, because my birthday is in December, so I definitely am a little bit behind on the but with that, I think 2010 was when I placed 4th at World Championships.
Wow.
I had my life in the Middle East. I had never intended to go to the Middle East, but it was cool because with track and field, I did get to travel a lot and see a lot of cool places. So a lot of North America that way. And yeah, it was very cool. So I continued my collegiate career and then did the professional athlete thing after. I've been to 3 Olympic trials. I missed the last Olympic Games by 2 in Canada. Our standard, but outrageous. The world standard to go to The Olympic Games is 43 meters, which I believe is 147 feet.
Yes.
And Canada's standard is almost 60 meters. So you have to throw like 190 feet to go.
So here you are, all American, and then you went to Canada, and they're like, "Oh no, you got to throw a little bit more," and you're like, "No, I'm number 4. I want to go to the Olympics."
Exactly. So, and that's how I got into bodybuilding. Was I wanted to clear my head. So, a coworker said, "Hey, let's do a bikini show." I was like, "A bikini show?" She's like,
So
"Yeah."
you said, "Okay, I'm just going to do a bikini show." What's a bikini show? You're saying to yourself.
Hard. I was like, I was already training full time for track and field. I was like, it can't be that much harder. I was wrong dieting socks. It's way harder.
I was going to say the dieting. When I deal with the NPC and the IFBB patients that I have, that and the WBFF, that whole situation, right, Brooke? You know,
totally. I was used to a power speed athlete where we call it a seafood diet. You see it, you eat it.
Right.
Eat as much as you can, but strong and fast. But this whole get lean and leaner is not the same.
No, you got to get lean, and then you got to get a little bit leaner.
So I do show with her. Yeah. Picturing like Coyote Ugly, like what are we gonna go dance at a bar? Like what are we doing? Turns out there's a whole industry behind this. So that's that's how I got into it. I did my first show and haven't looked back since, and that was fall of 2015.
So how did you do in your first show?
I believe I placed 3rd in my first show.
First show, you're just in, and you're placing 3rd, right?
Yeah.
So what happened after that first show? You fell in love now with this sport, right?
Yeah.
And now you're just going for it. So what is your training regimen like? Because you're going away now.
Yeah.
Right. And I've been following you on Instagram. You've been showing everybody what's going on, and I've made my comments and so forth and so on. So what is the training? You're in your 30s now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you training differently? You're training harder, you're training smarter?
I like to think with each show you learn how to train smarter, or how to better torture yourself to get where you're trying to get to. So I think I've done 13 or 14 shows now. So I've done quite a few shows.
Mm-hmm.
Big believer in if I'm going to get in this shape, let's capitalize on it and much or accomplish as much as we can. A lot of people don't have the mental tenacity to stick it out and compete back to back. But for me, it's a choice. Competing prepping is a choice. So life's full of choices, and nobody can make that other than me. So
what are you going when you're going to Europe now? What are you gonna go? You're gonna do fitness? Are you gonna go into the fitness category?
So I'm not going to. I'm going to do women's physique is a new one for me, and figure. So I've done figure thus far, but when I did the amateur Olympia in Portugal on the fly, 30th this last year, with 5 days notice, I was like, you know what? I was like, I have enough muscle mass that in Europe I'm like very big. I am almost 5'10", and I have a fair amount of symmetry and balance. So, and with my athletic background, I've always had the mass. It's like Arnold describes it as you add clay and you chisel it away. And so I was already kind of there. So I decided to do women's physique there, put a routine together on 4 or 5 days notice, and I placed 2nd. So I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, something that I need to stick in. And if I can be versatile and cross over and do multiple categories, why not? So right now that's kind of the plan, is to hunker down and do both categories and see where it goes.
You know what, for all of our listeners today, if you're not motivated, no matter who you are and no matter where you are in your life, I don't know how else to motivate you on my show. Okay. Because Brooke is sitting here and she's telling us that she was in a coma. They didn't know if she was going to live. She didn't know if she was going to walk. Paraplegic, the whole 9, right? And she's like, "Oh no, I'm going to do this now. That's just the way it is. I'm tenacious. If this is not motivating you, I don't know what's going to motivate you, because I'm motivated. I'm looking forward to the end of this podcast. Not really. I'm looking for the entrance, because I want to go work out. I want to go and I want to do my thing right now. My son came home. You met my son before, and he's got hockey. So we're going to go out, and I think we're going to start shooting and so forth and so on. So let me ask you some I don't want to say personal questions, but honest questions. What is the weakest body part that you have?
So the weakest body part I have, body part.
When you're up there with the physique now and the figure, what are you
Conditioning.
concerned? What are you concerned about when they're judging you?
My biggest concern is always conditioning, getting
Mhm.
conditioned enough, being lean or shredded enough.
Mhm.
Always the hardest part for me.
Mhm.
Just I do have the muscle mass. I kind of joke that I think about weights and I grow. So for
Mhm.
me, size is not an issue. Bringing my legs in tighter and more conditioned
Mhm.
is, I guess, I'd say my legs are my weakest part. If I have a weak point, that would be it. It used to be my back, but
Mhm.
in case you haven't figured it out, when my back is my weak point, I was like, I'm changing that. Too bad. Come hell or high water, we're changing that.
Mhm.
So I've now made my back into my strongest point. So everyone's like, you need to hit more back poses or hide your weaknesses. We'll show your back off more. So the back that I have now, ironically, is what all the German girls had when I was throwing javelin. They had these big, beautiful, like billboard-sized backs. I was so envious and jealous. Now I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
we're there.
You know what? Because some of the pictures that you put up some before and after of your back, and I had
Yeah,
commented. I said, "Wow! I mean, you can see the difference now
yeah.
in your back. You know, even when you said about your legs, you're like, well, finally, my muscles are beginning. You know, you could start seeing the muscles, that are coming out. So you're going to go to Portugal first, and then where are you going after that?
Alicante, Spain,
Spain, and what are you going to compete in there?
June 6th, and I'll cross over to both divisions as well.
You're going to cross over, and then you're going to go to the Ukraine. You're going all over the place.
Yeah, it's quite the Euro circuit. So all I have to do is win one of these shows. So I plan on winning the first or the second show. In theory, I'm going to plan to win the first one, but if I need to go to the second one, I will. And if I need to continue on from there, Ukraine is the following weekend. So I believe I would compete on the 13th at the Amateur Olympia Ukraine. Spain's an Amateur Olympia as well.
Mhm.
And then Italy is 2 days there, or 2 days after Ukraine is the Amateur Olympia in Italy. So there's a huge circuit of shows. Most or pro qualifying shows have, say, 7 pro cards available.
Mhm.
The Alicante Spain one has 27.
Oh, that's
So
a
it's
lot.
absolutely massive. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited.
So tell me about your mindset going from show to show. What's your internal dialogue to keep you going and to keep at the top of your game?
Honestly, it's one of those things that I'm always going to pick apart my physique or my flaws or my routine or what I need to improve on. And for me, when I see a weakness, I was the girl who always wore the t-shirt. I can think of it right now. It has soccer balls on it. That said, anything boys can do, or girls can do better, or I can do better, or something like that. And that was always kind of my attitude was I want to better myself always in everything that I do. So my mindset going show to show is how can I improve? What can I make better?
Mhm.
The secret that we all have weak points or flaws or things like that. But how do you hide that? So, like for a long time with being a track and field athlete, I had this big blocky waist
Right.
from a lot of twisting and torquing.
Mhm.
So my cheeks were quite prominent. So I'd have to find ways to hide my waist. So a lot of different twists, and I call
Right.
it smoke mirrors. But finding ways to hide your weaknesses and enhance your strong points and show them off to the judges and whoever else with confidence
Mhm.
a long way. So it's a never ending learning curve, and I think that's what I like most about it too. Is there's so
Mhm.
much to learn, and I don't think I'm ever gonna stop learning.
Yeah, it seems like you made that choice. You're just going to go until you're 70, 75,
Yeah.
maybe into your 80s, and you're just going to do this. So when you're doing your motivational talks, tell me, let's go back to that a little bit. How do you make an impact? If you have a bunch of younger kids
Yeah.
sitting in front of you, what do you say to them, and what impact do you want to have on their life?
Well, okay. So I kind of base everything around. So I grew up in a Christian home.
Mhm.
The acronym SOAP, or Scripture, Observation,
Mhm.
Application, then Prayer. But with that, that's kind of how I lead with everything is, okay, not necessarily scripture, but whatever we're talking about here, the observation we can make. And now what's the application and what's the practical side of implementing that to make whatever your goals are, whatever your next step is happen. So broad spectrum, when you have an audience in front of you, using things like keep moving forward, or another title of one that I do all the time is fail forward fast, the 3 F's. The quicker you fail forward, the quicker you're going to move forward. We all fail, and that's not a bad thing. Like I think rock bottom for me has taught me more than anything else ever has. And I've hit rock bottom a few times. What my own personal belief of rock bottom is or looks like. Everyone's rock bottom is going to look differently. But learning to accept that we are human, that we're not perfect, that we're not going to be perfect every single time, is a huge piece of it. I think people have this innate desire to be perfect and don't realize that no, or we're in this together. People aren't, I'm not saying everyone has good intentions for you always, but at the end of the day, people are your allies. Well, people are here to help you, and vice versa. Like you should try and help people as well. So the more that we can be in it together, the better we take this coronavirus pandemic. Never has there, well, like talk 50 years ago, but there hasn't been a time like this in recent history where literally everyone is impacted to the degree that we are right now. This, like, nobody has been exempt from this.
Right.
Nobody has been missed by this. This has affected everyone.
And I like that you brought up the word failure, challenge, or whatever you want to say, because we were talking about this yesterday in the office, and we were talking and we were mentoring some younger chiropractors, and you can get burnt out by wanting to be a perfectionist, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and failing forward fast. I've heard this term before, because if you fail forward fast, you just fail, learn from it, and get up and move forward.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're going to hit rock bottom at one point in your life. And that's just the way life is. It throws you a curveball. When was the last time you hit rock bottom, and what did you do to get out of it?
Rock bottom for me probably would have been when I ran into my immigration issues. June of 2017, I was on my way back into the US to host a work meeting from one of our satellite locations. And some border guard was having a bad day. I don't know, someone pissed in his Cheerios, but he decided to take it out on me. You know, you and I have talked about it a little bit, but he deemed my master's degree as not specialized, and said that I was taking an American's job. So basically tore up my work permit. So that was the end, and denied me entry back into the US. So that's why I'm home in Canada, and I should be back next year. We're working through some things with lawyers. But with that, I'd say that kind of brought me to a rock bottom, just flipped my world upside down. It flipped my world upside down, brought me to a new place again. But because I have support systems and networks of people near and far, you don't have to stay down. You know, there's all the whatever quotes by Muhammad Ali, or it's not about how many times you get hit, it's how many times you get back up, or how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. But I am who does believe that everything will work out. Things are made new each and every morning. So each day is a new day. So maybe you're trying to lose weight and you cheated on your meal yesterday. That doesn't mean that today's a write-off too, or the rest of the week is a write-off. Maybe you got in a fight with your loved one, or you said something you shouldn't have, or something happened. Well, tomorrow's a new day. So make the most of what you can today, do the best what you have, and tomorrow will be different. And if you don't, what's the point?
Yeah, you know, as a true champion that you are, you know, I remember I'm a New York Giants football fan. I bleed blue. So if you cut me, it's not red, it's blue. That's why I wear blue all the time. And Brooke, you know, one of our favorite players was Lawrence Taylor. Checkered, storied football. You know, I grew up in northern New Jersey, and you know, he had his restaurant, and you know, it was all, you know, it was a different time. And when he gave his Hall of Fame speech, he said something to the effect that it's not a crime that a Hall of Famer gets knocked down. It's not a crime that a Hall of Famer a champion, is down on the ground. It's a crime if they stay there. It's a crime that if they stay there because, as you can say those Muhammad Ali quotes, one of my favorite boxers of all time, you get knocked down 7, you're back up 7 times. And that's just the way it goes. And that's not only success, being an entrepreneur, that's just success in life. No matter how many times you get knocked down, you just get up. I mean, we're all coming out of this COVID. We all had to pivot, right? We all had to pivot with this. How did you pivot with your training during the COVID times?
I was very fortunate because through old sponsors and old connections with track and field, one of the local gyms here, I am very close with the owners. They've always been very good to me. With being back here, after being back for about 6 or 8 months, they're like, hey, can you help us out? We need help around the gym. Can you manage it? So I do pick up shifts here and there at the gym to help them out. And I mean, it gets me out of the house, gets me away from my computer. So I go away from the online work and get to do a little bit of in-person work. So I have started subcontracting there a little bit as well, just to fill my time, make a little bit of extra income. But through this pandemic, I was allowed to go into the gym and clean, aka go get my workouts in on a daily basis.
Well, I mean, listen, if you had a bench press to see if there was anything underneath, you can clean it.
Absolutely. Safety first.
Safety first. I like that.
So I was very fortunate to be able to do that for my clients. I brought a bunch of barbells and different equipment home and had it out back. So being that I am in a small town of 25,000 people, it's funny, a lot of my clients are police officers or nurses. So I didn't feel too bad about training them at my house. So we have to keep training for our mental health. They're I feel so lost. I don't know what to do. They're is there any way we can come to your place and just do stuff with you? We won't tell anyone. So we found ways to pivot and navigate around it safely. And yeah, so we made things work. And then as things started to loosen up a little bit, this before they put number restrictions on gatherings, because there's a big green belt out back of my house here. I offered a free challenge with a company that I do some contract work with. We did a free challenge that just kind of gave a little bit of hope, a little bit of positivity to anyone who wanted to be involved. So I was like, I'll host some workouts at my house. I'll do them out back, go back to my former past of kind of personal training or boot camp. I was in there and everyone was like, well, can you do it a couple times a week? Which led to I feel like I got swindled into 4 or 5 days a week. I was like, ridiculous. So the neighbors here were all super supportive and on their fence lines, we're talking the 90-year-old neighbor here is doing this with us and kind of jigging
That's
with
great.
us.
That's great.
The excitement, the positivity in such an inherently negative or seemingly inherently negative time. People were finding reason to smile and laugh and have a good time and take care of not only their mental health, but their physical health as well. So that was super empowering and fun for me to do. And it was about 2 months after that I started charging for them. Then I was like, okay, we're kind of into the clear. Things are kind of opening back up a little bit. Here's what we're going to do. So started charging for them and kept it super cost effective or affordable for everyone, but also made it so I wasn't just donating all of my time.
Right.
So started doing that, and yeah, the rest kind of became history. We had a blast, and
I love that because during this time, I'm like, you know what? We should be out there exercising. We should be eating right. We should be doing all of those things that help build up our bodies, right?
Totally.
We should be doing that. And so what was interesting and what I saw is that the health and the fitness community kind of merged during that time. So, those that are in the fitness community that I know were contacting me and I was contacting them, and we were trying to figure out ways to help motivate, educate, and inspire individuals because, during all of this, I think the next pandemic is that, it's not the quarantine 15. They're actually people, I think, in the average have gained 29 pounds, being inside. So it's extremely important to get out there, and to make sure that you're, rocking and rolling and making sure that everything is good. So, what are your goals now? Outside of the fitness community, what are your goals?
Outside of the fitness community, it's funny how life has kind of worked out for me, to be able to personally and professionally have my life kind of run in the same line. So it's all very health forward or athletically inclined. It all kind of runs together. So not do I get to travel for work, but I get to travel to compete myself, and I get to travel to make connections and maybe include a little bit of play in there. What I really learned being a NCAA athlete, I was allowed to pick which competitions I went to, and the Texas Relays is always a big one. So one of the years that I went to that, I had the aha moment of, I get to go to a lot of really cool places around America and the world. I was like, but I never get out and see them. But in Austin, there's so much to see. There's the music scene, the nightlife, there's the Capitol. A lot of people may or may not know this, but all of the Capitol buildings in the US face the White House. They don't face any other direction. The one in Texas does not. And it's
that's, I have a lot of friends in Texas. That's just Texas.
It's Texas. So seeing things like that and getting out and learning about culture and history was really cool for me. So I am very passionate about that. So that's one of my goals, is to ever be learning about the history and why cultures are the way they are. If I travel to somewhere else, I want to learn a little bit about culture. I've gone to Thailand a handful of times, and I like to immerse myself in the culture, try and pick up some of the language, and eat the local foods, and try those things to expand my horizons. When I go over to Spain here on our way back over, because we'll have a car, Lisbon, we're gonna probably my boyfriend and I were probably going to jump on a little plane. It's super cheap and inexpensive, like $50 each way, 50 Canadian, which is like $20 American.
Something like that. Yes, it is.
But cash to check out the markets and see the Sahara Desert and see a couple things there, because it's so inexpensive, and that's such a cool, unique thing to do, to be put back into time to like thousands, to what seems to be thousands of years ago. There's a tower there that my doctor was telling me I should check out, where Winston Churchill and Roosevelt during World War II got together and went up, and Roosevelt was in a wheelchair at that point in time, but they went up to the top of this tower and just got absolutely plastered. But there's so many stories about it, like just cool pieces of history that I wouldn't have known existed if I didn't try and open my eyes and see above.
That's great. That's great. So as you can see, we go from topic to topic here, and we ask different types of questions. Tell me, where does the master's in nutrition come in? At what point did you say, I want to study this? Because nutrition is extremely important, no matter what type of athlete you are, right?
So, like with most things, I guess I could probably say, it started off with selfish intent. Because I wanted to for me, how can I better myself? How can I be better? What can I change? What combination of Rubik's Cube here is needed for me to do whatever I was trying to accomplish or do at that point in time. So started getting into it that way, and then realized I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more than I could have ever imagined. It is very complex, whether it's performance, whether it's aesthetics, whether it's holistic medicine. There's so many avenues you can go with. And I realized that would give me a completely different platform to reach people and talk to people, and help people achieve whatever they were trying to achieve, or if they're sick or have something going on. It gives me a completely different platform to help people learn what works for them or help them get to their goal. You don't sleep very well. Well, maybe we can change these things around. Here's why. Let's look at a breakdown of your diet or lack thereof. Let's see where things are going. So that's kind of how I got into that, and it just kind of took off, became something I became very passionate about, excited about, seeing the changes that I was making, not only for myself, but for other people as well, which is very cool for me.
No, I love that. I love that. So you have the master's in nutrition. So, you're helping yourself out. And you had mentioned before that the dieting for these shows are really tough. What's the most difficult aspect of the dieting for a show?
The most difficult aspect is, I think is it Kai Green that always said the person who can eat the most like a dog is the one who does the best. The regimentation, the eating every 2 to 3 hours, to stabilize your blood sugars, the eating the exact same thing over and over. Yes, you can cook up 5 or 6 different meals a day if you want to spend all your time doing that. If you somehow have the time, or maybe you have a personal chef and can do that, that's fantastic. I'm not quite there or blessed yet with that, but um,
well, maybe your boyfriend could help out, and he
right.
could do the cooking.
That's what I keep saying.
But he's like, no, I'm not going to do that, honey. I love you, but no, that's just not going to happen right now.
We're working on that. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. I think he was walking back and forth before. It's funny that my son hasn't come in yet. He was in before, but I'm sure,
Yeah.
usually he'll burst in and he'll say, "Oh, you're doing the podcast, Dad?"
Love
yes,
it.
buddy. We got a podcast.
Yeah. So the hardest part I'd say is saying no to other foods.
Yeah.
Triscuits out on the table, or a cheese plate, or there's, I don't know, just different things around. It's hard to understand the gravity of how much of a difference those grapes will make in your diet. My coworker working in a surgical center in Seattle would occasionally leave like an apple in my office on my desk. They're like, "Brooke, we're trying to help you eat happy or eat healthy." I'm like, "You guys, you don't get it. Like, that is not for me. That is not healthy. That does not work for me, because it's sugar at the end of the day, and sugar's not bad, but for all intents and purposes of what I'm doing, it does not fit in this part of my prep."
Right.
So trying to get other people to understand or wrap their heads around why going to a restaurant and asking for a chicken breast might not work for me, because God forbid they cooked it in a tablespoon of oil. Well, now I blow up like a water buffalo, and well, that doesn't help.
Yeah,
Because
and you lost your definition and so forth, and you
our
can't.
bodies are that sensitive at this level. For a
Yes.
regular, an apple's not a bad choice. We're cooking in a little bit of oil, not necessarily a bad choice.
Right.
We can the macronutrient breakdown of things, but a lot of the time, these foods, there's no reason for them to be off the table for other people. My favorite thing in the entire world, guilty to admit this, but
Go ahead.
queso cheese sauce. Like, if you can go to 7-Eleven and get that nacho push cheese, like dip burritos in it, my favorite thing.
No, don't tell me that.
Right?
Oh my goodness. I'm sitting there thinking it's got to be something else. You're going to 7-Eleven and oh my goodness, that's the
so it's funny, or it's interesting. Each prep that I do, learning, okay, here's when we pull this out. At 10 weeks, I stop eating protein bars for a meal, just because that has an effect of its own. 8 weeks, I stop eating fruit because I don't want the fast sugars. I want something more complex, like
you want a complex carb. Yeah, sure. Oats are really good for that. Sure, because you have to sustain your workouts and so forth.
For sure. But then it's like when I get ready for, say, pumping up to get on stage, I'll have kind of my little pump up routine here. I have packets of salt, I have peanut butter, and I have honey, because in the absence of carbohydrates, like salt's gonna drive everything back into your muscles, and because I want carbs to pump up, your muscles will essentially just fill up like a nice water balloon. So you spend all this time depleting yourself with glycogen and whatnot at the end, and then your muscles just fill out like water balloons. So that little bit of quick sugar, like that honey or that peanut butter, goes straight into your body. And it's crazy. Like, shy of taking a Viagra, I don't know that you can get a better pump any other way. It's everything pops so differently.
My son just came in. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're still doing the podcast." So I'm like, I told you he was going to do that. So, he wants to tell me there's no homework, but he's gonna do some work today, Brooke, even though it's Friday afternoon. Sure. He's got high school tests coming up and stuff like that. Anyway, bring us through your workout regimen.
Yeah.
What is that like on a daily basis and at different times during the prep?
Yeah. So my weightlifting workouts are structured around whatever body parts that we're wanting to bring up or strengthen or make better. So for a long time, with my back being a weak point, for the last 3 years, we've trained back twice a week. Shoulders were also kind of a weak point for me, so we started training shoulders twice a week as well. So
really, your shoulders were a weak point, because the picture you had up the other day,
Yeah.
Your shoulders were
Not a weak point anymore.
no, 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 no. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting there and I'm saying that may be the strongest point right now, but that in the back, right? That whole posterior chain going on, you got.
Totally. So posterior chain has been a big focus for me, I'd say the last year and a half. But up until January of this year, I was back and shoulders twice a week, legs once a week. I had been doing chest and arms once a week, but about a year and a half ago, we pulled that my workouts. I was just training 5 days a week. So 2 back, 2 shoulders, legs. Because with that, we didn't want my arms to overpower my shoulders. So I've always had, genetically, that's what we all genetics. I've always had decent arms. That this January, we decided to throw a chest and arms day back in there, take out per day. So I was a little bit paranoid I was going to lose my shoulders somehow overnight. Luckily, happy to report it hasn't happened.
No, it hasn't.
But we started training legs twice a week, and that's where I've seen the most growth here. Since my last show has been, my posterior chain has changed so drastically.
Wow.
Really getting excited about what I bring to the stage coming up here, because it's going to look very, very different.
And when are you going now? You're going tomorrow morning? Are you heading over to Portugal?
Yeah. Tomorrow I start to make my journey over to Portugal. It's a long haul, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you're out of here. So when are you coming back?
Well, Canada's a little bit behind the times with how this has all been mishandled, so to speak. Right now, our government's requiring us to do a $2,000 hotel stay for 5 days in a government mandated quarantine hotel. So yeah,
I have another podcast. I'm bringing you on to other podcasts.
Right.
We can talk about a lot of different things on that one. So
yeah, we should. So depending on how the restrictions change, or if they don't change, that'll determine when I come back. Right now, my flight back is for July 7th. But I would like to, in a perfect world, stay over there and compete in the Portugal Pro Show July 19th. I just have to be back in Canada and able to attend my younger brother's wedding the following weekend. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that off air. We can't talk about that. Our time is almost done, and it goes quick when you're having a great conversation like we are. So, if you were to leave our listeners 3 aspects of your life to help motivate, educate, and inspire, what would those 3 aspects be?
3 aspects of my life personally. I mean, we're all the grass is always greener, but the dog is always meaner. So although, Brooke, you get to travel and it looks like you're having the time of your life, you must have it all together. That's not necessarily how it is. I think we all have our own struggles and strifes, and we all have the choice to walk through them to the other side or sit and wallow in pity and suffer even more. So we all have the control and power over how long we want to sit in something versus keep moving forward and beyond it to newer, greater things, other destinations. There's lots of hills and valleys. So I guess things to leave people with would be, don't give up. Tomorrow is a new day. Keep moving forward, no matter what that takes or looks like for you. Fast, slow, rolling, crawling, doesn't matter. Keep moving forward. And your surroundings, that's everything. Your network, your support system, the people in your life, you're going to become like the 5 people in your closest circle. So if you're hanging out with drug dealers, criminals, felons,
don't do it.
You're probably going to end up one of those things or like that. So careful who you might be mindful of who you surround yourself by. That's not to say that these people are bad people. But if you want to become like them, then keep them around, stay around them, hang around them every day. That doesn't mean that you can't be friends with them and have other friends, but be mindful of who your inner circle really is and who you're spending the most or the brunt of your time with and on.
I love that. I really love that. So Brooke, I want to say thank you for being on today. This has been a great conversation. And for the listeners, we're going to, if it's okay with Brooke, we're going to post when you start posting and telling us what you're doing. If we can take that and we can
Heck yeah.
post that on our our social media and our business pages, just to let everybody know where you are and what you're doing. So I want to say good luck, although you don't need good luck because you are a kick-ass person and you're going to do really, really well. So good luck out there and bring home the gold, baby. Just bring
I
home
will.
the gold.
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
the
bring
best.
home
Yeah.
the gold. So where can people find you if they want to follow you on social media?
Instagram, my name, Brooke with an E on the end, and then Pighin, Pighin, as in November. Yeah, at Brooke Pighin, that's my handle for everything. So you can find me there, reach out, message me. I love to engage with my followers, love to make connections wherever I go.
Yes.
I believe that this world can be a lonely place if you're by yourself. So the more friends we have, you can never have too many.
You never can ever have too many good friends when it comes to that. So Brooke, thank you very much for being on. Good luck.
Thank
And
you.
when you come back, want to have you back on and you can tell us about your experiences.
Absolutely.
You can tell us about your experiences during your time. So good luck. Want to let everybody listen, follow Brooke. We want to give her all the support we can, all the love we can. We want her to win. So this is going to be great. So thank you, Brooke. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And remember, live your best life, and we'll see you the next time. Take care.